is possible. And they are going to talk more about resilience. So I'm going to give the floor to Jonas and Thea.
I had no idea that we're in charge of the breakfast as well, so you're welcome everyone for this amazing breakfast, and thank you.
You're not in charge, you just give us the money.
Okay, yeah, so you're welcome for the money then, I guess. All right, thanks for having us here. My name is Jonas Wendt and I'm from PwC in the Malmö office, and this is my friend and colleague Thea Brorsson. And at PwC, some of you might know of us, we're a huge firm worldwide working with tax consulting, accounting, auditing and advisory services. And our purpose is to solve important problems in the society and build trust. So that's quite a huge thing to take on your shoulders, right? But in order to create trust, more specifically in the society, we believe in resilience. And so today and next week we'll have a mini session about resilience. Today we will be focusing on resilience towards global climate change. And next week we will talk about resilience more in a general perspective, and we'll talk about business continuity management. But since I'm just not knowing anything about anything more or less, I brought my colleague Thea. So please introduce yourself, Thea.
Yes. Hi everyone. My name is Thea and I work as a sustainability specialist at PwC in Malmö, together with Jonas. And there I focus mainly on topics relating to climate and environment, but also working quite broadly with sustainability within all types of sectors and companies.
Right. And sustainability, or ESG, we had a topic talking about this just before the summer with a colleague of yours, Jeanette, and now we're talking about it again. Why is this such a hot topic right now?
Well, sustainability, or ESG, as we also like to call it, which stands for environment, social and governance, covering everything from climate change, environmental impact, societies, human rights, anti-corruption, the whole thing. I mean, and working with that has gone from something that is a nice to have to a need to have, and that is due to many different reasons, but I thought I would highlight two different things. So, for once, we're talking about resilience here, and then naturally risks are in focus. And I mean, sustainability-related risks, they are no longer any potential risk, they are out there already. We can take climate change as an example. It's no longer something that is potential, it's happening all around us. We have seen extreme weather events happening all around the globe, and that disrupts supply chains, and things are happening far away from here. Still, we are living in a global world, so that it has a big impact on companies here as well, and a big financial impact on companies. So that's one part. The other one is investors, I would say, because they understand this. They understand that sustainability-related topics, but that is related to financial impact. So they are now looking for and giving a premium to companies that are able to articulate their ESG strategy and that are working proactively with their sustainability-related topics. Because they want to make sure that the companies, that they understand what type of risks that they are facing due to climate change, for instance, and also how they are mitigating them, in order to make sure that the company has a business model, but also a way of working that makes sure that they are sustainable long term, that they have something that will work in the future. So it will be a good financial investment.
Okay, so basically when an investor is looking at a company and doing their valuation, if you're resilient and work proactively with climate change risk, that will mean more money to you.
Yes, and we see a lot of the large investors that we have today, they're putting a lot of pressure now on companies to actually focus more on climate-related risks. And that is not because a lot of them are very criticized for the way they are working with sustainability in general, the investors, but they see that this is such a financial risk. So they put a lot of pressure on the companies now that they need to have a way of working and mitigating the risk that they are facing due to climate change.
Interesting. Is this something that you've experienced in investor relations or investor discussions, that you talk about ESG-related risk and climate change and resilience? For those of you online, 3 people are nodding. So we got a yes from the audience. Anyways, all right, so it's relevant risks, it's happening all around us, and it's a premium from investors. So then why don't everyone work with this more or less all day long?
Good question. I think a lot of companies, they find it, I think a lot of them find it difficult just to understand what type of risks are we facing and then how should we work with them. But I also think that a lot of companies, they underestimate the impact of this type of risk. And they have seen that, oh, this is something that is not relevant for us. But things are changing, and working with sustainability is important for all companies.
All right, so this might be a difficult question at a Tuesday morning, but if you find it difficult, and we have 5 minutes with Thea, the sustainability specialist, let's make it easier for us.
Well, I think so. At first, you need to understand what type of risk that you are facing in order to be working with them. And there's something that I think can be helpful for a lot of companies, and that is adding a perspective from looking only at what we call an inside-out perspective to also an outside-in perspective. And I will try to explain this. So traditionally, when working with sustainability, there has been a focus on how is the company affecting the world around us? So how much are we emitting? What type of waste do we give rise to? How is the impact on the societies that we are operating in? So that's how the company affects the world around them. And that is very important to understand what that kind of leads to. But it's also really important to understand how the world around is affecting the company, so the outside-in perspective. So if we take climate change as an example, that is something that's happening outside of the company that has a big impact. So, and that in many ways, we have extreme weather. It could be so we have the extreme weather. How is that impacting the company? And that could be anything from, do we have assets that are located in areas where there is a lot of flooding? Our buildings, are they equipped with, so we can manage heat waves? Or are we relying on one single supplier that is located in an area where there is a growing events of extreme weather? So that could lead for us having disrupt supply chains, which could then have financial impact on us. So that's the physical part, but also other things, so like regulations. If we have an increased carbon tax as a response to trying to mitigate climate change on a more global level, will that have an impact on us? Will it have some kind of one of our raw material that will increase a lot in price? So there's a lot of different things. So you need to add the perspective of how the outside is impacting the company, because that's usually when you find the financial risks.
Okay, and so by adding that, you can identify your weaknesses in your supply chain and your business model,
Yes.
work towards that, and thus be resilient
Yes.
towards extreme weather, for instance, in this example.
Yes.
And having that mindset will help investors. It helps your ESG storytelling, doesn't it?
Exactly. We can say, okay, we have identified this and this different scenarios. We see this could happen, so this is how we are mitigating that. In that way, you're building up a resilience for different types of scenarios.
Interesting. So, this is a lot about risks and quite apocalyptic in a sense. Let's make it positive and talk a little bit about the opportunities.
Yes. Because I mean, there are a lot of opportunities as well, and working with opportunities, I mean, it's equally important as working with the risks. And what we want to reach, kind of ultimately, we want to have that by working with the risk that you transform them into opportunities. So I mean, resilience by itself is, I would say, like an opportunity to make your company stronger. But of course, you have other opportunities as well. You have working actively with sustainability. You can get new markets, more resource efficiency, finding new products and services, attract new investors. Maybe you can get a green loan, etc. There are several different ones.
Currently, when looking at the investor market, I hear a lot of green loans and green capital and all of that. I mean, what is that?
I think that is like a talk for itself, because they're very different things. I mean, we have everything from social bonds to that you can get a better loan, kind of, if you can show that it has like a better impact a lower impact on the climate, for instance. Then you can get a better condition on your loan. You can get green obligations. There are a lot of different things going on that kind of. So, and the financial market is happening a lot of things, and they are quite far. I mean, you have the whole EU legislation packaging now with the taxonomy and everything. That is all coming, so we can kind of decide on and have a common language in what is a sustainable investment. So there's a lot of things happening within that area.
I think you bring up some interesting topics here. So one is be aware and work towards those risks and build your resilience. And then we had a quick discussion here this morning about not just having that policy in place, but working with the people and change management to actually make sure that the changes that we would like to implement are indeed implemented. And the third part that you bring up now is also be able to tell your stakeholders, your investors, about what we're doing, so the storytelling around it. So just having that sustainability policy typically won't be enough, I would say.
No, in order to have good communication, you need to have the work before. I mean, the reporting is the last step, kind of. Then you should report what you have been doing, not the other way around.
And by doing so, when it comes new EU directives and new legislations, that's a catalyst for change. So let's not aim to be just compliant towards those legislations. Let's use them as a catalyst to actually work with the change within a company, right?
Yes.
Right. Good. I think that sums up what we want to bring from us today. Any last words, any tips to the audience from you, Thea?
Start early. I mean, you could feel like small companies, for instance, they are not affected by all the big legislations, everything happening right now, but it trickles down fast and things are changing. And take the opportunity to build resilience early, kind of, and take advantage of starting early to make it less of a burden going forward. And working with sustainability should be incorporated in the whole company. It should not be isolated somewhere. You need to have everyone on board in order to actually make a change. Start measuring things. That's something a lot of people miss. Find good KPIs so you can track your what you are doing and your progression. And also one last thing, I would say remember that material sustainability risks, they should not be separated completely. I mean, if there are material sustainability risks, they are material business risks.
That's good. And when you mentioned KPIs and such, some of you might recognize Thea because we have a campaign ongoing at LinkedIn and on Google and on other social media platforms. That is a net zero initiative from PwC. We call it Från noll mål till mål noll. Wow. And Thea is one of the people behind that campaign and also the face of that campaign. So if you haven't seen her already, you'll see her soon on LinkedIn. So we'll stick around for a bit, come up and talk about climate change, extreme weather, or net zero, or anything else you would like to talk to. And thanks for having us.
Thanks.